All right, everyone. So Backyard Baseball 97 was just re-released. You can get it on Steam. And it made me think about these backyard games probably making a comeback and why they should. The bottom line is, this is anybody who's, over the age of like 25, 26, anybody who's over the age of that understands what these sports games used to be, right? So if you go back in Madden, if you go back in NBA, whether it's 2K or live or whatever, if you go back in any of these sports games, you understand that back in the day, the realism aspect of these games was a lot less. Meaning, there was obviously the graphics weren't as good. Obviously, like you see this like pinpoint passing that they got now and all of that stuff. And there were some features in these older games for Madden and stuff like that, but they just didn't have the technology to make them as realistic. And what they replaced those with, the realism aspects, is they did two things. Number one, in something like Madden, the feature set was more complete. So the franchise mode was way better, right? The franchise mode, it was like down to every little detail, like hot dog prices that you could get, right? And this is why people loved these games, because even though they, didn't have the technology they have today to make it look the way it does, they put all of that energy into the love of the sport, and just to make sure that the feature sets of these games were huge. And the bottom line is, when you got done playing those games, they were fun. They weren't frustrating, they were fun. Nowadays, when you look at the sports lineup and all these sports games, realism has taken over the day. So when my career starts or my player starts in 2K, it's literally just you play through the season. There was some summer league games, and you started on the bench, and you could earn VC, but there was no microtransactions with it, and there was none of this, you know, stuff where you're going to do endorsements and there's no story to it. It was just playing the game, and personally, I enjoyed that more because that's all I wanted to do. It's like you're playing a game. That's what you want to do, is play the basketball portion of it. Like, this idea that I want to be doing endorsements and doing all of this other stuff, it's like that doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. That's the stuff that in real life is not fun. Nobody wants to do that. And yet now they're making you do it in these games. And so you may be saying, why does, do the backyard games, what does that have to do with it? Well, because I think there is now more than ever a market for these type of games, which are, these are games that are not obviously graphically the best. These are games that don't have, I mean, it's not that they're not realistic, but they're, like, there's, if you play backyard football, you just click the pass. I mean, this idea you can pinpoint passing, these are just, they're backyard games. They're fun. They're arcadey. And I think more than ever, we need to see those again. And the backyard baseball game, they literally just put out backyard baseball again. And, you can see some of its flaws, as it's super old. You can see some of its flaws, but you also can see some of its charm. And I almost think that what they should really look at doing is go ahead and just release all these games again if you can, if whatever, if you're able to release all of them. And then also look into not just releasing them all again after you do that, but then look at taking those and saying, okay, so we have these games from 97 that people love. In what way can we take these and say, you know what, we're going to not just, we're not just going to re-release them, but we're going to say, okay, we're going to add even more modes to this thing. And you don't want to change it, right? You don't want to make it so that it's unrecognizable from the initial product. But if you could take little aspects of it, like, you just fine tune a little bit of how it plays, right? Make it play a little bit smoother, a little bit faster. If you could just make the graphics 1 or 2% better, if you could just add, in these season modes, a few extra things to do, I think that would be perfect. And then you have two types of games, right? You can go back on all of Steam and play all the originals, because they would have at this point already released all of them. And then on the other hand, you could play an upgraded version as well. And so the people that just want to play the OGs, go ahead, play the OGs. For people that want to stick with the newer versions of these games that they make, go ahead and do it. I just think there's a huge market, because I'm just speaking, personally. Look, NCAA was a ton of fun. I know people really complain about Madden, but if I just turn my brain off and don't think about anything else, it is fun. NBA is still fun, but they're just, to me, I don't get that excitement that I once got playing them because they are as realistic now as it gets. And for some people, they love that, right? I get that. I get it. You want to play a simulation game of the game that you love, and there's people that get so good at it, and that's great. And those games should exist. Nobody has a problem with them. I, I just think there needs to be that kind of arcadey fun again too, where like playing backyard football back in the day. I mean, let's just call it what it is. It was one of the best experiences I ever had gaming. I mean, it truly was great because I could play through the most simple seasons. I could play 1,000 seasons of backyard football, and it was the same damn thing. I used to print out the schedules, and it would have your W's or L's on them. I mean, it's just awesome. So thank you all for watching.